Toddler picked up the phone. 20 minutes later, 4 people lost their jobs. Nobody in that mansion saw it coming. Not the security guard. Not the head of staff. Not even the man who owned the house. A woman named Elena Reyes had just been fired. Fired for something she didn't do. Fired in front of her own daughter. She walked out of that estate with nothing but a diaper bag and a broken heart. But her daughter, Sophia, remembered one thing, one name, one number, saved as a picture on a cracked phone screen. But here's what nobody expected. That toddler didn't cry. She didn't scream for her mother to stay. She reached into that bag, found the phone, and called the one man who could burn the whole house down. What happened in the next hour would end 4 careers, expose a lie, 3 years in the making, and remind one of the richest men in the country what it means to actually see the people who work for WEM. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why a 2-year-old's loose phone call became the most expensive mistake 4 adults ever made. Elena Reyes was 31 years old, and she had exactly 1 photograph of her husband left, a man she'd lost to a construction accident 4 years earlier. She kept it folded inside her wallet, behind her ID, where nobody could see it but her. She raised Sophia alone, in a 1-bedroom apartment 40 minutes from the Sterling estate. Every morning, she woke at 4:45 a.m., dropped her daughter at her sister's place, and rode 2 buses to reach the gates of the largest private residence in the state. Elena was not the kind of woman who fought back. She said yes, ma'am, to instructions she disagreed with. She stayed late without being asked. She once walked 6 blocks in the rain to replace a broken vase before anyone noticed it was gone, just so nobody would think less of her. She needed this job. Not wanted, needed. Sophia's daycare, the rent, the medication for her mother back home, all of it rested on Elena's shoulders and nobody else's. The man who owned the estate, Marcus Sterling, was almost never home. A tech investor worth 11 figures, he spent most of his year overseeing operations across 3 continents. The house ran itself through a small circle of senior staff, a head housekeeper named Diane, an estate manager named Victor, and 2 assistants who reported directly to them. What Elena didn't know, what she had no way of knowing, was that a piece of jewelry had gone missing from the estate 3 weeks earlier. A sapphire bracelet worth roughly $40,000, borrowed by Diane for a private event, and never properly logged back into inventory. Diane needed someone to blame, and Elena, quiet, powerless, without a lawyer or a union or a single ally in that house, was the easiest name to write down. What he didn't know was that Sophia had been sitting in the staff break room that morning, playing with an old phone Elena kept for emergencies. A phone with exactly 1 saved contact, added months earlier, almost as a joke. Mr. Sterling, emergency only. Elena had gotten his private number after fixing an urgent problem alone one night when nobody else answered their phones. He'd told her, half serious, if something ever goes wrong here, call me directly. She never thought she'd need it. And then, it all changed. Diane called Elena into the estate office at 9:12 in the morning. Victor stood beside her, arms crossed, refusing to meet Elena's eyes. The bracelet's missing, Diane said. You were the last one in that wing. Elena's stomach dropped. I never touched it. I didn't even know it existed. We checked the schedule, Victor said, sliding a paper across the desk. You were alone in that room for 11 minutes. Elena's hands started shaking. She had been alone in that room, dusting, exactly as she'd been told to do every Tuesday for 3 years. Being alone in a room wasn't a crime, but in that moment, it didn't matter what was true. It only mattered what looked convenient. You're done here, Diane said. Pack your things. We won't be pressing charges, this time. Elena didn't argue. She didn't beg. She simply nodded, because that's what a woman with no power learns to do. But somebody else in that building was about to refuse to accept it. Sophia had been sitting quietly in the staff break room the entire time, coloring on the back of an old receipt. She was 2 years and 4 months old, too young to understand the word fired, but old enough to understand her mother's face. When Elena came to collect her, tears streaking down her cheeks despite every effort to hide them. Sophia did something nobody in that house anticipated. She'd seen her mother press a single button on that old phone once before, the night the water heater flooded the laundry room. She remembered which button. She remembered the picture next to it, a man in a blue jacket, smiling. While Elena packed the diaper bag with trembling hands, Sophia reached in, pulled out the phone, and pressed the screen. It rang twice. "Hello, Elena," a tiny voice answered instead. "Mommy is crying." Marcus Sterling was in the middle of a board call in Singapore when his phone buzzed with a number he hadn't seen dial him in months. He almost didn't answer. He always answers. "Who is this?" he asked, sitting up straight. "Sophia," the small voice said proudly, like she'd accomplished something enormous. In the background, he could hear Elena's voice, panicked, trying to take the phone away, apologizing over and over. Marcus didn't hang up. He asked one question that changed everything. "Elena, why is your daughter telling me you're crying?" Elena, mortified, tried to explain that it was nothing, that Sophia had made a mistake, that everything was fine. But Marcus Sterling had built an 11-figure company by knowing exactly when someone was lying to protect someone else. "Tell me what happened," he said. "All of it." Elena, cornered and exhausted, finally told him everything. The missing bracelet, the accusation, the 11 minutes alone in the room, the instant dismissal without so much as a chance to explain. Marcus's voice went cold and quiet, the tone people who worked with him for years knew to fear more than shouting. "Put Diane on the phone. Right now." What happened next moved fast. Marcus pulled up the estate's internal security logs remotely, logs Diane didn't know he had access to at all times. Time-stamped footage showed the bracelet leaving the safe 11 days before Elena's watch even started, carried out by Diane herself, driven to a private event, and never once scanned back into inventory. "You didn't lose a bracelet," Marcus said, loud enough that Victor could hear it too. "You lost track of something you took yourself, and you built a story around the one person in this house, with no way to defend herself." Diane started to speak. Marcus cut her off with 4 words that ended her career. "You're all finished. Today." Within the hour, Diane, Victor, and 2 assistants who had signed off on the false report were removed from the property. Not suspended. Not investigated first. Removed. Their access revoked before their cars even cleared the driveway. And Elena, standing in the parking lot with a diaper bag over one shoulder, and Sophia balanced on her hip, had no idea any of it happened until her phone rang one more time. Elena almost didn't answer. She assumed it was Diane, calling to threaten her into silence. It was Marcus. "Come back," he said simply. "Your job was never in question. Theirs was." Elena stood frozen in that parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, unable to form a sentence. 3 years of swallowing her pride. 3 years of staying quiet. 3 years of believing that people like her simply absorbed unfairness because that's what the world expected. And in one phone call, all of it reversed. "I don't understand," she finally said. "Why would you believe me over them? You don't even know me." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I know exactly who you are, Elena. You're the only person on that entire property who called me for help with a flooded laundry room, instead of covering it up. You've never once wasted my time. That's worth more to me than every title in that building combined." Sophia, unaware of the magnitude of what she'd just done, tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, is the phone man happy now?" Elena laughed through tears, the first real laugh in what felt like weeks. "Yes, baby. I think he is. You have to sit with that for a second." A toddler who couldn't tie her own shoes had just done what a grown woman, terrified of losing everything, couldn't bring herself to do. She asked for help. Marcus didn't just reinstate Elena. He restructured the entire household staff hierarchy so that no single person could ever again fire an employee without a documented, reviewable process, and without his direct sign-off. He set up a scholarship fund in Sophia's name for her future education, not as charity, he said, but as a thank you. She did something 4 executives with fancy titles couldn't do, he told a colleague later. She told the truth without hesitation. 3 weeks later, Elena returned to the estate for her first shift back. She stood at the same gates she'd walked out of in tears, Sophia's small hand in hers. And this time, she walked in with her head up. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the job. It was the simple, radical idea that someone finally looked past a job title and saw a human being worth protecting. After everything Elena and Sophia went through that day, one thing stays with you long after the video ends. Sometimes the people with the least power in a room are the ones telling the most truth. So here's what I want to know from you. If you were in Elena's position, silenced and powerless in that office, would you have found the courage to speak up, or would fear have kept you quiet too? Tell me honestly in the comments below. If this story moved you even a little, hit subscribe. Not because I'm asking you to, but because stories like Elena and Sophia deserve to reach more people who need the reminder that decency still wins sometimes. And if you liked this one, wait until you see what happens in our next story, where a single voicemail exposes a secret a family had been hiding for 15 years. Until then, take care of the people who show up for you quietly. You never know when they may, and that's be the ones who save you.